Brian, your head coach released a statement last night about the verdict in Minneapolis, and I know you guys have had a lot of conversations since last summer. I'm wondering how you kind of viewed that, what type of conversations you're having, how you see that impact guys on the roster. Obviously, it's that separation between sports and society is pretty much gone now, and everybody's having hard conversations. I'm wondering what type of conversations you guys are having.
Yeah, well, I mean, look, I appreciate the question, Rob. Obviously, I think you hit the nail on the head when you said the separation between sports and society is gone. And really from where I sit, it seems like separation between anything and anything is gone. And we live in a very partisan world, be it politically, be it socially, be it economically. There's just a lot of division. And what I've learned probably more than anything in the last year, right, is sometimes it's important to listen. And I think we could all, certainly myself, but I think all of us could learn a lot from some of the youngest guys on our roster. We try to have conversations on a daily basis in this program, certainly as things come up. We try to be a lot more open within the program, a lot more dialogue in the last 12 months. But my number one priority is always going to be the players on our roster. And I think it's our job as adults to champion those guys, to support them in what they choose to do, and also to support them and encourage them in their personal feelings. So, we have conversations on a daily basis within this program, whether it be individually, as groups, position groups, Hawkeye championship groups, different age groups of guys. But ultimately, I think what my feeling is how do we continue to grow? How do we continue to listen and move forward? Ultimately, it's about relationships. And I know that seems, it seems a little cliched, but certainly we talk about our objectives for the spring as an offense. The first thing we talk about, is continuing to kind of build more of a, I don't know what the right word is, but just kind of that, like a spirit de corps, right? I don't know if that's how you say it. Okay, but what does it come down to? It comes down to respect, and it's respect for one another on a personal level. It's respect for the job everyone does and understand how difficult that is. And then once you build that respect, I think you can have some real conversations and move forward. So we're going to continue to try to be open within our program. We're going to continue to be open to evolving and changing as times change around us. But ultimately, what is our job? Our job is to support our players, and our job is to make sure that their needs are met, emotionally. And that's what we're trying to do right now.
Well, obviously it was the George Floyd situation and death last year that kind of triggered some of the conversations you had in June. I guess just, with yesterday's verdict in mind and thinking back to this past year, where do you see, the most areas of growth, maybe personally and also team-wide in this last year?
Yeah, I think starting with the personal side of things, just more awareness, obviously, being more transparent, having more communication, opportunity to have one-on-one conversations with guys that are maybe a little bit closer to the situation than others, and then collectively as a team, I would say, on the same levels, like, it's brought us closer as a team. I think our players have alluded to that. I think we've become more transparent as a coaching staff and a team as a whole. But the one thing that you do realize, and you realize it through conversation like we had this morning, that we're so far away from where this thing is going, and I don't know that we've gotten any closer. And I'm talking about a more global picture of things. But we can do the work here in our building. We can spend more time with each other. We can get to know each other better and have those conversations. And if we do that, then to me, we've got a chance to affect those on the outside. And but it's been a good process for us. But I would say that you know, even the conversations that existed this morning would tell you that, you know, we've got a lot of work to do as a country, and, you know, it's stopping this cycle that we're in, you know, because it's been 331 days since the passing and murder of George Floyd. And, you know, in between there, I don't know how much has actually gotten better. So we've got a lot of work to do.
But there was a conversation had amongst the Hawkeye championship teams about the verdict, and there was conversations had last week too about the Dante Wright killing as well. You know, in terms of the verdict, you know, yesterday it was a day filled with sadness, and it was a day filled with relief. You know, the sadness was because, you know, it opened some old wounds from when last year when George Floyd was murdered. It opened some wounds there that, you know, it did happen. It brought it back. It brought it back to the forefront. So, you know, that created some sorrow just in my heart, but there was also some relief too in the verdict, because even though people saw what they saw on camera, I wasn't one to raise my hand and say that it was going to be a slam dunk conviction on that case. And I think that goes to show you, even if you can see a man be murdered on camera for the world to see, and for you to still have doubt that the perpetrator will be convicted of murder, shows you how much further we have to go, just in terms of race relations, in terms of accountability, in terms of justice, because I've seen it where it didn't go that way, where the verdict didn't go that way. So a long way yet still to go in terms of race relations and police relations, a long way to go in terms of justice and reform. But, you know, this case helped shed light, and hopefully through the power of social media and, you know, people are able to see, I mean, exactly what happened. This case reached depths it reached limits that, you know, the Rodney King trial never reached, just because of social media. Going back to for our team, we're heading in the right direction. I can't stress that enough. I love where we are right now, just in terms of the open and honest conversations and uncomfortable conversations that we're having. I told our players last week when we talked about the Dante Wright situation, is I made a mistake last summer in assuming that my players knew where I stood. I made a mistake in assuming that I knew where certain players stood based off of where they were from or what they may have looked like. That was a mistake on my part. I'll never do it again. We have open and honest conversation here, not only as in terms of our positions, but cross-positionally too in the Hawkeye Challenge groups. And I've really been enlightened by the things that our young men have to say. It's just, I feel good. I'm proud of where we are right now, because of these young people see this as a safe space to be able to share their opinions, regardless of if they differ or whatever side of the spectrum that they're on. You know, what we're trying to teach and what we're trying to breed here with these young people is respect. We want them to know that they're loved. We want them to know that they have significance here. We want them to know that they're accepted here. And that's of any and all opinions. And hopefully, once they leave here, they can go and make the world a better place, because they are the future. They're the future policemen. They're the future troopers. They're the future lawyers and doctors of this world. And I don't take lightly the impact that we're going to have on them during this 4 or 5 year period. So, you know, the open and honest conversations that we're having specifically on topics of race, on topics of social and racial injustice, it's unbelievable, because we spent a lot of time talking about team building. We spent a lot of time talking about leadership and things of that nature. But there's some other issues too that were not being approached, that are being approached now. And I think our players appreciate it, and I know our coaches and the coaching staff appreciate it.
Kelvin, the next question is from Grant Becker.
Kelvin, I really appreciate your perspective on that. And I guess I want to stay here as well and ask what your personal reaction to that was yesterday. And were you nervous? Did you watch it? And have you had conversations with any of the young black men on your team following the verdict? And I mean, just what was that day like for you, not as a football coach or a football player, but as a black man in this country?
I didn't watch the verdict, but I didn't watch it. I was watching it on Twitter as it was going down on Twitter. And so, yeah, I mean, yes, I was nervous because, like I said before, I've seen it where it didn't go down, where a person was murdered, video evidence showed that a person was murdered regardless of intent. And I've seen it go the other way where a person can be acquitted of that. So there was some tense moments for me, wondering whether or not the officer was going to be convicted or not. And like I said, I think that just goes to show you how much further we have to go when, you can do it on camera for the world to see and people still have doubt. In terms of our team, like I said, I missed out on the meeting this morning. I didn't have a chance to. I wasn't there. had another obligation, but I will take the time to talk to our guys about it. I've talked to friends around the country about it, and there's still a lot of work to be done, Grant. It's a step in the right direction. I think a precedent was set, and those are good things. But there's still a lot of work to do. And as a Black man, it's not going to. I'm still going to talk to my son about when he gets up driving age 10 and 2 and how to respond, because I just although it's a step in the right direction, we still have a long way to go.
Kelvin, the next question is from Mike Halas.
Hi, Kelvin. Good afternoon.
What's up, Mike?
I'll ask you about something you mentioned moments ago, in that you have been enlightened by your players. How have they enlightened you? What do you know now that you may not have known several months ago about them and what they think?
I think just the general unawareness, specifically, and my room is made up of Black and white players. I got some mixed players and some Black players, but just the general unawareness last year of our white players, that they had no idea that our Black players felt the way that they did, which was, we spend a lot of time together. We shower together, we live together, we eat together. And just the general unawareness from them was a shock to me. And I felt bad because I missed an opportunity to educate them. I'm with them every single day. And, just to worry about, how they're playing on the field and how they're doing in the classroom, I missed an opportunity to educate them on where I'm coming from and what my walk or what my drive to the facility may be like. I missed that opportunity, and I won't do it again. And although they were unaware, they weren't reluctant to listen. Actually, they wanted to listen. They were thirsty for that knowledge. That brought us together. Me being open and honest, transparent, vulnerable even with some of my stories to them, I think it brought us closer. They have a newfound respect for me. And then, again, the players of color here, just learning from them is they see it exactly how I see it, but from their perspective of being, student athletes. I haven't lost what that feeling's like, but also I'm 38 years old. I'm not walking around this campus anymore as a teenager or a young adult. So I understand that their perspective is different, even more so now. So I've just been enlightened on both sides of the story of the coin. And like I said before, I won't make the mistake again of assuming that they know how I feel. And I won't make the mistake of assuming that I know how they feel. We're going to talk about it. However uncomfortable it may be, we're going to have those conversations because I ultimately believe it's going to bring us closer together.
Kelvin, we'll ask for your time for one more question. Final question this afternoon is from Scott Docterman.
Yeah, Kelvin, I'll keep it on this topic as well. And just wanted to kind of ask you about, is there anything you took away from maybe some of your white players, maybe their perspectives? Did that give you pause? Did you think about their thoughts? And has that kind of helped bridge a gap that maybe what was there a year ago?
Just going back to what I took away from them was that, when you're in the majority, you don't really think about how things affect the minority. And that doesn't make you a bad person, okay? So that doesn't make you a bad person. It's just, you're unaware, you haven't been exposed to it, but it's our job in this environment that we're in, this football environment where we're bringing kids in from all over the country, all different kinds of backgrounds, to make sure that everyone is exposed to everyone's culture, to make sure that everyone feels uncomfortable. We talk about we say be comfortable being uncomfortable. Well, that doesn't just happen in the weight room or on the field. That needs to happen socially as well. And the only way that can happen socially is through conversation. And if you're not fostering a conversation, then you'll never get a chance to mature in that arena in terms of social and racial inequality and social and racial justice. So just their thirst for knowledge and their acceptance once the conversations were had, that's something that I take away from it, because they weren't resistant to it. They didn't put their head in the sand and say, oh, well, you know, I don't want to hear about it. I don't want to talk about it. That's not my problem. These guys opened up. They opened up and they were receptive and they showed some empathy. So that's what I took away from them, especially in talking about the white players, is that they wanted to know. They wanted to know, much like on the coaching field, kids want to be coached. They wanted to have these conversations, where I know some adults who are set in their ways who don't want to have the conversation. And that's just, I guess it's just part of being old.